Okay, so next up, probably no stranger to you after last night. Very good friend of the company and actively involved with a number of projects that we've got going on. The award-winning ray of sunshine that is Mr. Dan Jenkins.
Hey! I can say award-winning in front of my name now. It's amazing. So yeah, I'm Dan Jenkins. A lot of you, how many people have seen me talk before? Yes, I love these audiences. It's always great to talk to fresh people and who haven't got any stigma against me. So I call myself a web developer who just happens to work in telecoms. So through and through, I love web technologies, and I love making stuff with the web platform. I like less and less making stuff with old telephony. And I really wanted to talk to you today about some of the cool things that are in the web platform nowadays. I'm not going to talk about code, because I know we've got a very mixed room here. I want to talk more about some of the things that are available to us now, that make development easier, quicker, some of the new ways of delivering things, and then kind of some things you could implement tomorrow and make your application safer, like tenfold. So a little bit about me very quickly. I'm the founder of Nimble Ape Limited. We do real-time communication consultancy. I'm a Google developer expert. That doesn't mean that I work for Google. It means that I am kind of endorsed / rubber stamped by Google as someone that knows what they're talking about when it comes to web technologies. Dan_Jenkins on Twitter, and I organise something called ComCon, which is what the award for last night was all about. And I love the web. Nimble Ape Limited, yeah, we do real-time communication consultancy. We join like the web and RTC together, whether or not that's native. Simon alluded to the fact that I've been involved with VoxApp. VoxApp uses WebRTC and web technologies, but in a native way. ComCon this year will be held in July. It's a little bit different to any conference that you might have been to in this space. It's a residential conference, so everyone's in one place and there aren't any other people at that hotel. It's just us. So there's 3 and a bit days of amazing content, and an experience like no other. Simwood were a platinum sponsor last year, and they're going to be a platinum sponsor again this year. So thank you very, very, very much to Simwood for their continued support. So the web platform. What is the web platform? Is it browsers? Is it devices? Is it web technologies like writing JavaScript and HTML? Well, it's kind of all of those things. It's browser technologies, but it's also standards that get made outside of all of those browsers and then get implemented. Or even a browser saying, well, this is a cool idea, we're going to implement it, and then everyone else kind of joins in. And that's kind of what happened with WebRTC. So I want to cover some hot topics within the web platform. There's HTTPS, there's something called WebAuthn, there's something called progressive web apps, commonly referred to as PWAs. There's web components, there's WebAssembly, there's picture-in-picture, and then there's something called Quick. So hopefully I won't bore you all to death, and you'll all go away going, oh, that'd be really cool to implement. So first off, HTTPS. HTTPS is, well, kind of used to be that green padlock that you'd see in the URL, and it would tell you, yeah, sure, your site is encrypted. And over the years, HTTPS has changed completely. Like, we used to have SSL certificates, and now we don't have SSL certificates, even though everyone still calls them SSL certificates. And really, we now use TLS certificates. So let's stop calling them SSL certificates, please, for the love of God. Yeah. Every time I hear someone go, oh, we need a new SSL certificate, I'm like, Well, if you are talking about an SSL certificate, then like that's next to useless anyway. But I'm kind of going to go with the fact that you mean a TLS certificate and you just haven't kind of got used to saying TLS. So TLS is now on 1.3, and yeah, SSL is dead. And probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Chrome moved to this thing of having green in the URL to prove to people very, very obviously the fact that a site was secure. And that green tick might have like a little cross in the corner of it, and that would mean it had mixed secure content. So the website might be secure, but it had loaded something that wasn't secure. And so that was a really great step forward. Kind of meant that prominent websites could become HTTPS, and they'd kind of get recognized for it. And it was really obvious to end users whether or not something was encrypted or not. But nowadays, you're more likely to see this in your browser, not secure. And you'll see there's not even an HTTPS in front of ladbible.com, because Google are even going as far as like removing URLs from the URL bar. I think is absolute madness, to be perfectly honest, because that's what the web is. The web is URLs. We take a URL, we share it with our friend, and they get to see some content. Exactly the same content as I saw. And that's the power of the web. So I'm not really sure why Chrome are going down the route that they are, but that's a separate topic. So today you're more likely to see this, not secure. Oxford University are not secure. National Rail are not secure. And you might all think, well, I'm not putting any financial information into National Rail. And when you click on sign in, it does take you to an HTTPS version because you're logging in. So surely, why does that beginning page need to be secure? Well, a non-secure page entitles anyone within your path to get that traffic to go and alter that page without you even knowing. So my corporate proxy could very easily just go in and say, well, there aren't any trains today. And you would take that as gospel because you've gone to nationalrail.co.uk and it said there's no trains. Your corporate proxy has lied to you, but you've got no idea. So that is why TLS on every single website is so, so, so important. The other reason they're so, so important is because every single new feature within the web platform requires HTTPS now. So if you want to do anything kind of cool that I'm going to talk about, you have to be serving your content over HTTPS. So WebRTC, for example, which isn't in my talk today, that requires HTTPS. You're giving your browser permission to access your webcam. You're giving your browser access to share your screen, to access your microphone. Those are things that require you to have that security. And so any of these new features require HTTPS. I'm not going to talk too much more. I'm not going to talk any more about HTTPS because to me, it's a done topic. Every single website on the internet should be HTTPS now. There's something called Let's Encrypt. How many people have heard of Let's Encrypt? So 50% of the room. For the remaining 50%, to get a TLS certificate in 3 years ago, you would have to go off to a provider and you'd have to give them a sum of money and they would give you a TLS certificate. That could vary from $5 to $500 or even more, depending on what kind of certificate you wanted. And then your certificate would run out like every year, and then because it wasn't automated, well, got to that day and then your website wasn't encrypted anymore because you hadn't renewed your cert because you'd forgotten about it. Yeah? So now there's something called Let's Encrypt. And it's supported by Google, it's supported by Mozilla, it's supported by Cisco, loads and loads of big companies. And basically it's free TLS certificates and they last for 3 months. And pretty much because it lasts for 3 months, you have to automate the process so that it renews. And hey presto, you've got free encryption on the internet forever. So there's no excuse anymore to not have TLS encryption on a website. TLS encryption anywhere. So that's HTTPS. WebAuthn. I'm really, really, really excited about WebAuthn, and I've actually, like, probably 40% of this talk is about WebAuthn. That's how excited I am about it. You're all kind of going, oh, well, what's that? So it's a mixture, it's up to you how you use it. It's a mixture of two-factor authentication and passwordless authentication. And I've actually left my keys in my bag. Could you get, I'm not even sure where my bag is. There's some keys in my bag. The CloudOnyx bag is probably on the side. There's two websites that explain it far better than I can in this space of time. And there's one called webauthn.io, and that's like a demo. And then there's webauthn.guide, and that really explains everything there is to know about WebAuthn. But basically what it means is you can go on to YubiKey and buy a key, one of these USB keys. It can be USB-C, it can be USB-A, it can even have NFC within it. And thank you very much. That is what I'm after. So these things here cost about $50-ish. And they come with varying degrees of security / connectivity. And this one's USB-A and NFC. And NFC? Looks like NFC. So this one you can use on your mobile fairly easy because your mobile has NFC. So these things cost about $50. And for a very long time now, we've actually been able to use these on the web. So if you went to Dropbox or even apparently the Simwood portal, you've been able to tie this key up to the website, and hey presto, you've got two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is something you have, something you know, and something else. It's in a later slide. So basically, the thing you know is your password, and the thing you have is this key. And Google recently forced all of their employees to have one of these keys, and to log into any of their systems requires one of these keys. And it stopped 99.99999%. I'm sure there has been one. They say there hasn't, but I'm sure there has been one. It stopped all of their phishing attacks, any compromises within their network, because to be able to log into any Google system, you have to use one of these, which means you need to know a password and have something physically. So these are about 50 quid, $50, 50 quid. The exchange rate's terrible at the moment, isn't it? So this is a little bit of an example for WebAuthn. So before, it wasn't a web standard, and it was kind of up to browsers to implement these things separately. So this is me filling in my email address, so that becomes my identity. We're going to ignore what these are, but I register, and because I've selected cross-platform, it goes, oh right, this is cross-platform, because I can move this from platform to platform to platform. I can use this on my phone, I can use this on my laptop, and I'm going to register, and I'm going to put this in, and then I'm going to touch it, and hey presto, I've now registered using this key. I'm going to log in, I'm going to use this key again, and hey presto, I've logged in. I haven't actually typed in any single password there, and that's what I'm talking about. You can use this as a two-factor auth mechanism with a password, or you can go passwordless completely. So that's with one of these keys. The really awesome thing about WebAuthn is, on your phone or on your laptop, have you all 99% got a fingerprint reader? Fingerprint readers are already in your device. They don't cost you $50. So within this, I put in my URL, in my address, just like I did before, and I changed the authentication type to platform, because it's platform specific. I click register, and it goes, oh, my laptop is a MacBook Pro, and it's got a fingerprint reader. So I can use that as a mechanism for authentication. So I press login, and hey presto, I press my fingerprint again, and hey presto, it logs me in. Technically, this is how it all works. You go, I want to create a new account, and the server says, sure, send me a public key. You use some JavaScript APIs, there's APIs for all of the languages, and basically, when I touch my finger, it creates a public and private key that is unique to me at that very time. So I then send up my my public key to the server, and that's the end of it. That's the registration. When it comes to authenticating, it's similar. So I go to the server, I want to sign in. The server sends me back some data that I then encrypt using my private key. I then send that data back up, and the server goes, oh, I know what your public key is. I'm going to check that this thing that you've just sent up was encrypted with that public key, with the corresponding private key using my public key. And hey presto, it's going to go, ah, you're the same person, we can log you in. So on that website, webauthn.io, these are all of my public keys for fingerprints, for different keys, loads of different attempts to make this video. That's really, really cool, isn't it? Like, the fact that I don't have to have a password anymore. I've got something that I have and that I am. So in this case, it's actually, I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's super, super secure. So it's fingerprint or external USB. It could be NFC as well. And you all kind of think, wow, what happens when I've lost my thing that I have? Well, one, you would have made a backup, so like you'd sign into another device, so you'd have like more than one device be able to access it and things like that. So the fact that you've lost your thing doesn't mean you don't have access, but even if it did, you'd still just go through password reset type stuff that you do today. And you think, oh, but someone now has that thing that magically gets me in. Well, I mean, there's nothing on this set of keys that actually tell me who that person is. No, they're just like the car keys. Well, this I might be able to find out. But the idea is there isn't anything on a set of keys to tie that thing to you. And therefore, it's just a device that they're going to plug in. And when they plug it in, it doesn't have any corresponding information to you. And so you just, when you go onto the portal using another device or whatever, and you just remove that device, and hey presto, you're still secure. Two-factor auth. So this is the thing that I keep forgetting. Two-factor auth is a method of confirming a user, etc., etc. And so you can have two of these three things. Something they know, so historically that's a password. Something they have, i.e. this, or now a phone or a laptop, because that's the thing, that's the reader, and something they are. Something they are, in my case, right now, is my fingerprint. So this is how you can still have two-factor authentication without a password, because you're still fulfilling with those criteria. There's an excellent talk at Google I/O 2018 all about WebAuthn. So go on webauthn.guide and also watch this video if you're really interested about it. And you could implement it today and it would work across browsers. So it's cheaper than ever to secure your data and your privacy. And I say that because how many of us have got devices that have fingerprint readers? Before, I had to spend $50 or whatever, or even $100 because I wanted to or whatever, as a backup. And so that's quite expensive for end users. Whereas now, it's there in front of us. We can just secure everything far better. So yeah, right now, it's perfect for internal systems. So the SimWood portal, for example. I mean, you've all probably got a lot of money tied up into the SimWood portal. You probably all have things in there that you don't want other people to get access to, etc., etc., etc. So wouldn't it be awesome if you've locked that down so that you really had to have something on you, or something like a key, which is already existing today apparently.
Yeah, I haven't tested it recently, but we built YubiKey support back
in theory
4 or 5 years ago when I got one.
So go buy one and use it.
Don't use that with SimWood.
Someone go test it and then complain at Ross if it doesn't work. There you go. So that's WebAuthn, and I'm really, really excited about WebAuthn. It empowers us as developers to kind of secure our systems in a way that we've never actually been able to before. The weak link is us as humans. We write down our passwords on bits of paper. Well, I don't. I use a password manager, like any respectable person in this room should. But I use LastPass personally, but there's like 5 of them, 6 of them out there that are all respectable. They all have varying degrees of support for, like, LastPass, for example, if I log in on a new device, I have to use my key to unlock my password vault. So that someone can't just guess my master password, they have to have something I have. So I'm going to give these keys back. Thank you. We'll do questions at the end. So that's WebAuthn. Like, it's really, really simple to go and do it today, and it's supported across browsers. Progressive web apps. Progressive web apps. How much time? Yeah, I've got. Okay. Progressive web apps. So, progressive web apps allow us as web developers to build for unreliable networks. And that is by using something called a service worker. And service workers are in the path of every single network request that your website does, which makes it very easy to be able to go, oh, you're offline and I can't access this thing, so I'm going to show you a good 404 page, or I'm going to show you a cached version of what we saw earlier. Cached versions don't work if you go offline. Like, if anyone that's been in Chrome on your phone and you go into the underground or whatever and you're not hooked up to Wi-Fi, and even though you've been to a page before, it still won't work and show you a cached version, because it's still doing that request to the server and going, I can't talk to that server. The service worker sits in between all of that and allows us to go, the service worker goes, I'm offline, I'm going to serve up that cached version that I saved earlier. So it allows us to build for unreliable networks. And it builds one app that works everywhere. I was going to take a screenshot, but I forgot. The new Spotify web app is a progressive web app. So that allows Spotify to build one experience that works everywhere. And they're seeing huge increases in conversion because it's not just a shitty web player thing that they had a year ago. They've got a proper web app that allows you to use all of your libraries properly, and it works everywhere. I could insert a really, really long definition here, but basically they're reliable. There's no large app updates anymore. So like, if you build a native app, every time you update that app, it's going to be like another 20, 30 meg, because you don't just download an incremental update, you download that whole app again. Whereas, because this is just a website, and one of my JavaScript files has updated, that's 2 or 3K rather than 20 meg. Works everywhere, works on my phone, works on my Chromebook, works on my Mac, works on Windows, and I can install it as an app on my desktop or on my phone, and hey presto, there's an icon that I can actually just touch like a normal app. So you'll need a service worker as a minimum, and really it allows you to build once, and there's loads of tools now that you can go and use. There's something called Lighthouse from Google, and Lighthouse essentially gives you loads of scores and loads of pointers on how to make your app better. Doesn't just work for PWAs, it gives you a whole kind of spectrum of knowledge around your site. So this is a site that I do for a scout campsite that I used to be involved very heavily with, and you can see performance is at 97%. What that really means, it's a mixture of all of these things. So first contentful paint, how speedy it is, how much CPU idle there is while I'm doing it, gives me all of these nice screenshots in mobile so that I can see, there were two lots of blank before anything got painted to the page. There's loads of tools available to us now to be able to go and build something. Lighthouse used to be, and still is, a Chrome extension, or you can run it in the command line. But there's also something that they've just released called web.dev. .dev is a new domain, and soon you'll be able to go and register your own .dev domain. But web.dev is essentially a hosted version of Lighthouse. So you can just go to web.dev, type in a URL, and it will give you a score of how good your website is performing. Takes 2 minutes. Go and do it. So PWAs aren't new. You see, this is from Google I/O 17. So why am I talking about something that's been around for a while? When I was talking, I said I'm going to talk about new stuff. Oh, my laptop's going to die of battery. Yeah, I need a USB-C charger. If you find my bag, there's one in there. But yeah, so sorry, got distracted. So yeah, PWAs aren't new. Why am I talking about it? Well, to me, this is amazing. They're now discoverable in the Google Play Store. So you can actually make a progressive web app, and you can put it into the Google Play Store where people expect to be able to go and find an app, and they can discover it, just like you would any other app. You can still go find it on the web, but now progressive web apps are now searchable via the Google Play Store. So the Spotify example, they could rip out their native version of Spotify tomorrow, and hey presto, they are just using progressive web apps. That's amazing to me. So yeah, they're discoverable as apps, not just websites. Thank you very much. Cool. So that's PWAs. Web components. Who's heard of web components? That's what I expect. Basically, web components allow us as developers to use other people's code ourselves and then make the stuff that we make look amazing. Web developers are lazy, and I always say this because we are. We like reusing other people's code, and we like making things look nice with very, very little effort. And that's why Bootstrap, Twitter's Bootstrap, became very popular like 5 years ago, because suddenly websites could look really, really good with very little effort. Ended up meaning that every single website looked the same, which was a bad thing. But essentially, web components is the next thing on from Bootstrap. So these are a load of web components from Material Design. Material Design is something from Google. It's like Bootstrap. And so essentially, I can go and copy the code, copy this web component, and I can get a button that looks really nice. And when I tap on it, it gives me a ripple. Like, all of this stuff is actually really complex to do in the web, but I can go and add 3 lines of code into my app, and I can get that button. That's amazing. Like, it means that people like me that can't design stuff very well at all, and Simon was saying the Vox app UI isn't very good. Well, that's me. But basically, it lets us take awesome stuff that other people have written and use it ourselves, and things will look awesome and act awesome in a standard way. So pretty much all modern web development should be using web components. And if you are building something that's unique to you, you should still build it as a web component, because then that thing is self-contained and self-testable. So that's web components. WebAssembly. WebAssembly might actually be really interesting to you guys. WebAssembly isn't that interesting to the likes of me. I'm not a C developer. WebAssembly essentially allows you to run C code in the browser. So essentially, you could take, say, a soft phone written in C, and you could shove it through something called WASM, and basically get that soft phone in your browser running C. To me, that's bonkers, but there's loads of good reasons why you might want to do it. And there's a URL there that give a load of use cases. But the one that I really love, this is an app called Squoosh. And basically, it allows me to change an image within the browser using C libraries for WebP, for Moz JPEG, all of these different image encoders. All of those image encoders have been loaded using WebAssembly, and every time we drag and drop this left and right, or change which image encoder I'm going to use, it's going off and starting up a WebAssembly kind of worker, and that worker then works on converting it and then chucks it back to the web page. And that's how we can get awesome performance and features that weren't available in the browser. So some of these image encoders are not available in a browser, but I can go and drag an image in and I can go change it. I can change the quality of it, and then I can save it. What's really cool here when this video loads, so I opened up a PNG and then I changed it to a WebP, and that WebP file is 45% smaller than a PNG. You're all probably going, well, what's WebP? WebP is the new image format, and it includes like transparency, just like PNGs do, etc. But it's far more efficient. And that was kind of interesting. And there's ways to use WebP, but fall back to PNG, for example. But it's kind of a nightmare. A hidden hot topic is WebP is now supported in Firefox, which means more and more of the web is going to natively support WebP, which means we're going to get this amazing experience within our browsers at no cost. So that's WebAssembly. WebAssembly, I think, has the power to be really, really powerful. It's figuring out how to do that in the best way, and that's up to the browsers. A really good example that I got told the other day, but at the moment it's impossible. What if I had a WebRTC audio session between two peers, but I've made my own Opus codec with some special secret sauce in there, and I want to use that Opus codec in my WebRTC call. Today you can't do that because WebRTC uses the built-in Opus codec in the SDK. The example that I was given was you could load that Opus codec in using WebAssembly, and then you could then utilize that Opus codec using WebAssembly. Today there's no way to be able to kind of swap in and out a codec within WebRTC, but WebAssembly kind of allows us to do this, and therefore it's entirely theoretical and possible that web browsers will start allowing us to shove in our own codecs. So that's WebAssembly. You're probably bored yet? No? Invigorated? Let's go with invigorated. So picture-in-picture. To me, this is really cool. Always on top window for video. So there are apps that you can go and download to have a window always on top on your computer. Or if you've watched YouTube videos on an Android phone and then gone out of YouTube, the video still kind of appears on your screen still. This brings picture-in-picture to the web. So this video is just a HTML5 video tag, and it has this picture-in-picture API. And so you click picture-in-picture, and hey presto, it pops out a window. And I can now have that on the top of my screen no matter what's below it. You can go and do this on YouTube today. There's no toggle in the UI, but if you right click in Chrome on YouTube, there's an option for picture-in-picture. So you can go and watch YouTube videos today using picture-in-picture, and that's really cool. I find it so useful when I'm kind of watching vlogs and things while I'm working. Listening. I'm listening to vlogs while I'm working, and it just allows me to kind of see what's going on, but at the same time allow me to get on with my work. The really cool thing though, and the thing that usually gets forgotten about, is picture-in-picture also works for real-time media. So in your WebRTC session, you can now say share your screen, but have your webcam as a picture-in-picture. And so you still get access to everything. Like, you don't disappear when there's a screen share and things like that. There's so much potential for what we can do with picture-in-picture. So at the moment, that's only in Chrome. So I'm kind of at the end, other than Quick. How many people have heard about Quick? Interesting. So Quick is a new thing, and it's not really a web platform thing. I'm going to talk about the web part of it, but Quick will become very interesting to all of you very, very soon because of encrypted media. So Quick allows us to have a UDP-based encrypted transport, but in fewer round trips than we currently have today. And the new format of HTTP, called HTTP3, uses Quick. Quick used to be called Speedy. Speedy was built by Google, and now it's become this standard. So this is HTTPS over TCP with TLS. And we all know that there are many, many jumps. Like the sender goes up to the server sends back some information, and then you have to, with some TLS information, then it's, anyway, there's lots of legs. I'm not a networking person, I just know that it's inefficient. And this happens for every single asset on your website. So it all happens in parallel to a degree, but this journey happens for every single URL you're loading. JavaScript, CSS, images, web pages, HTML content. So that's an awful lot of round trips, right? With Quick, we go from, instead of doing it all over TCP, Quick is using UDP. And the awesome thing is that Quick pipe is multiplexing. So times this by probably 1,000, like go onto your website and see how many assets actually get downloaded. This is one pipe to your server, and everything gets sent over this. So crap loads of delay, crap loads of repeating, making new connections. Quick lets us kind of scrap all of that, and hey presto, I've got one pipe sending everything, and it's encrypted. That's amazing. Will we get there? Like, will you be able to go to a CDN and have Quick? Yes. CloudFlare today, if you host something using CloudFlare's CDN, allows you to send over Quick. So it is becoming very, very popular. And I said this is going to be very popular for telecoms because, well, what do we do today with encrypted media? That's all done using DTLS or SDES or whatever. And that's using UDP. Soon, there will be RTP over Quick. And so you won't have to do so much of setting up of things as we do today. So that's Quick. And to me, those are the most interesting things going on in the web. And WebAuthn, to me, is like the holy grail. Everyone that has a login system should be going and implementing it today. It's got cross-browser support, and it works really, really well, and it's fairly simple to implement. That's really it. I'm Dan Jenkins. Nimble8 are hiring software engineers, so any of you want to come work on this kind of awesome stuff, let me know. And ComCon will be 7th to 11th of July. If you're interested and you don't really understand what ComCon is, because it is a little bit different, come and speak to me. Early bird pricing ends at the end of February, so you have just less than a month if you want to save some money. It's an amazing event. Last year it went better than I could have imagined, and I can guarantee there's like 10 people here that went last year. Go speak to any of them, and they'll say glorious things about it, and how you should all go. So thank you very much. That's the end for me.
Thank you, Dan. Who's sponsoring it?
Simwood. Simwood are our platinum sponsor, and there are some others as well, but they're not as important as Simwood.
But sponsorship is available, right?
But sponsorship is available, yes.
Good stuff. Are there any questions for Dan?
Hi, Dan. Picture-in-picture, is that only suitable for media applications, or can you use it for anything that you want to have sitting on top, like a dashboard or?
No, it's only for media.
We just got the one.
Well, what question?
Yeah.
Why you
Before I
don't
let
give
go
me-
of the mic.
Yeah. You don't trust me, do you? I have no idea why. That's the web auth thing.
Yep.
Is that the actual key? Is it, you can only use that particular key with that technology, is it, or is there a variety of keys from different suppliers?
Any
and-
key that supports the U2F standard, or
Right.
whatever it is, I can't remember exactly what the standard is, but you don't just have to buy a UB key. Google, for example, sell security keys.
And this, presumably, these keys will work with other areas, not just web technologies.
Yes, absolutely.
So you could secure other systems,
Absolutely.
other login systems, presumably using the same key for.
Yes.
for
Absolutely. So you can make a GPG key, and you can shove that GPG key onto the drive itself.
Yeah.
And then you can use that GPG key to log in via SSH, for example, into servers. And hey presto, you've got this thing that knows exactly who you are, and will only work with that key.
Yeah, so we could use that for the VPN side of things.
Yes. There's loads and loads of use cases for that technology. It's just coming to the web. It's been around for quite a while.
Brilliant.
Which means support is there for loads of other things. I actually tried to do my GPG key stuff the other day, and I got very confused by it because I'm not a hard geek. So I need someone to help me do that.
Any more? Dan, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.